financial crisis recovery.
Foreclosure, short sales, bankruptcy, credit card debt, job loss, depreciating home values, money management. Peace of mind when it comes to your finances seems completely out of reach under current conditions, but there is a way to achieve it. For the next 60 minutes, you're going to find out how to cover your assets. Cover your assets.
To these different issues and the value of the classes at Kaplan Professional Schools, I want to encourage you to download the Financial Crisis Bible. You can do that by going to CYA21.com and downloading the Financial Crisis Bible. The other thing I want to also encourage you to do is to, if you're interested in these classes that can be enormously beneficial for an individual consumer to gather information. You heard the last caller, hopefully, and if you were able to listen to that call, you can hear the complexity that is involved in even the most simple question. That isn't to avoid a person's question and to overcomplicate things. There's just a lot more implications than people tend to imagine. And so the classes are able to really explore things so a person has a basis of understanding and can make good decisions. When I do the class CSI Minnesota Credit Score Investigation, that's 8 hours of how credit works and how to manipulate a score and rebuild after your credit's been beaten up. Even though you have fabulous credit your whole life, now for the first time in your life, you find yourself in a compromised position, and you don't want to be told that it's going to take 20 years to rebuild your credit all over again. You want to be able to come screaming back in 12 to 24 months. Well, that's a whole different proposition than building credit over the last 10, 20 years. How do I manipulate a score to do that? That's what this class is all about. To fall and rise again. How am I going to be perceived? How do I manage things? How do I position myself to ensure that I'm never in this position? How do I protect my assets? What will I lose? What will I gain? Everything I need to know about bankruptcy, short sale, foreclosure, everything you need to know. Buying within your budget, which is another class. Making decisions from a position of financial accuracy. Just because they lowered your payment doesn't mean you fixed anything. Remember, if I'm 50 feet underwater or 100 feet underwater, I'm drowning in either case. And if I don't know enough about my own personal financial situation, which most people don't, I'll make a decision of the lesser of evils and not realize I've accomplished absolutely nothing and I'm still unable to sustain and make my payments. So that's buying within your budget, strategic planning with a budget. Last one is strategic default. Hey, I know I'm going to begin to miss payments. What's it going to do to my credit? What are all the considerations that I need to know? How can I lock myself down before this happens so I won't need credit over this period of time? How long will it take me to recover? And then how do I position myself for future financing with underwriting guidelines? The exact thing we just covered on the last call, which you could have noticed without blinking, that I could have gone on for 2 hours with this guy and told him all of these things. I'm not going to be able to do that on a radio show. You come to a class and for 50 or $100, I charge $250 an hour to do the same thing. You're going to get a lot of information, 4 to 8 hours of this stuff. It's awesome. All you need to do is ask us for classes. Go to CYA21.com and ask us for a list of the classes at Kaplan. We'll give you the list. We'll give you the times and the dates and the locations. And if you want to attend as an individual consumer or a licensed professional, by all means, love to have you in my class. And I think you'll find it enormously valuable to you. So with that here, I'm going to take my next caller here. This is Tom from Zimmerman. Got a question about writing off a second mortgage. Tom, you're on the air. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks. First time hearing any of your information, and it's very interesting. I'm in a pretty good position. Last year, I was just kind of tight cash flow-wise, but paying current. Now this year, it's better. I've got a little more room to work with. Sleeping well at night, the whole deal. But it just seems like, my house is definitely underwater. The second mortgage, it pretty much put it at par. And it strikes me, it's Wells Fargo for first and second mortgage. It just strikes me that, if that could be written off, it would pretty much put an asset that the bank is calling, higher than what it really is to really be at book value. And cash flow-wise, it would kind of accelerate, my situation to be quite a bit better. And I didn't know, the willingness or latitude or leverage or anything that would possibly push for that kind of a situation to happen, or if that's pretty much a no-go that banks are just kind of hang on to this imaginary market value and think that somehow it's going to come back in some timely manner. I don't know.
Well, okay, so let me address your question. First, Tom, you've got a first and second mortgage. Specifically, your property tax assessment, which may or may not necessarily be anywhere close to accurate on your home, but it is the low-hanging fruit that people that lenders will use, as well as a Zillow, and they may also send out a real estate agent to do a broker price opinion BPO to check out the value. So my first question is, what is your property tax assessed value of your home?
I want to say it's in the range of like 170, I think.
All right. How much is your first mortgage?
First mortgage is right in that range of 170.
Okay. And your second mortgage is how much?
About 70.
About 70,000. All right. So the first question to ask immediately is: were those two loans originated at the same time, the first and second mortgage with Wells Fargo?
Yep, they were.
All right, and then the other thing you want to do is you want to write this down, look in your loan documentation, and see whether or not those two loans are cross collateralized. And what that would mean is that bank who owns first and second, and by the way, remember, Wells Fargo First Mortgage and Wells Fargo Second Mortgage are completely different companies and will treat each other as such. They're different incorporated entities, and they're not one and the same. They will literally fight with each other over the very same money at a closing. So they're separate. However, if your loan is cross-collateralized, it makes it very easy for the bank to foreclose from second position if they want to do that. They don't need to go to the bank and say, we want you to merge the two loans because they're making the payment on the first and they're not making the payment on the second. So that's the first thing you got to find out. It sounds like your second mortgage is wholly unsecured against the value of the home, meaning that if you liquidated the home tomorrow, it would only pay the first and the second would virtually get no money. Is that a correct assessment?
I'm really not sure.
Okay.
My understanding is that they would go back and want to, collect on both of them. But
No, yeah. Well, I know they want to, but if your house sells for $170,000 and the first mortgage is $170,000, the balance of $70,000 on your second mortgage is wholly unsecured in so much as I know it's collateralized. I understand that there's a security instrument as the second against the home itself.
Yeah. Okay.
However, what I'm saying is that if you liquidate that home, there's not going to be enough value in the sale of that home to be able to give the second mortgage company any money. That's what I'm talking about. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
All right, good. All right, so then here's the question. Well, it's not even a question. If you stop making the payments on your second mortgage, the question is, what can they do to you? Here's what they can do to you. They can file a judgment against you, and when they file a judgment against you, they can levy your bank accounts, lien your property, and garnish your wages. So that's what they can do. Will they do that if you just stop making the payments on the second? Yes, they will. Is the bank that you're dealing with a very strong bank and has a history of doing exactly that if you're not walking away from the house and you want to keep the house? Yes. And so the likelihood that you're going to be able to simply negotiate with them for 10 cents on the dollar or something like that on your second mortgage and stay in the house is probably very slim. And if you do this, don't forget that they're going to do what they're going to do and you're going to do what you're going to do. So if you're self-employed, remember, it's going to be pretty hard to garnish my wages because they're going to send me a notice to garnish my own wages. If I'm a W-2 employee and I work for Medtronic, they're going to send a 25% garnishment to Medtronic, and believe me, Medtronic's going to honor that obligation, and now they've got you. And that 25% of your income may ultimately be a lot more money than the monthly payment that you make every single month, and you'd have wished you'd never gone down this road. So the idea of doing that without divesting yourself of your house is very slim, very slim. However, there are times when a second mortgage will be purchased for cents on the dollar by another bank. And when they do that, they may actually be willing to cash out on your second mortgage. Just that Wells Fargo, if they hold both mortgages, probably isn't that bank who would do such a thing. So I would say that your chances are very slim, but I would say that if you wanted to know more about that, I would, again, encourage you to come to one of the classes at Kaplan, because that class, Strategic Default and the Path Back, if you're looking at $70,000 and you're saying, hey, I'd like to do this, and I want to know everything there is to know about this, you come to that class, and by the time you walk away, you'll be an expert compared to a lot of the people who actually are in the field. So that's what I would tell you to do. I'm just saying this, very, very tough to do what you're talking about. Very tough, my friend.
Okay. Okay, good.
Good enough, Tom?
The other quick question had to do with high interest rates and at what leverage there is to negotiate that down. It just seems like, they're kind of getting it out of me for all the people who just decide they don't want to pay. And my credit is somewhere in the at least low sixes, and I've got cards that are like 28% interest, and it just seems like the and I got to work on paying it down and everything, but it's just kind of it just doesn't seem like it's in proportion to, I know they're just spreading out their risk over people who aren't paying, it seems like, but.
So here's what you're saying to me, Tom. You're saying that my credit is already beaten up, and it's not just this one issue of a second mortgage. I've got extenuating circumstances that are beyond that, with credit lines that are squeezing me pretty tight, and so I've got other issues. Now, if we go into that issue, I should tell you that, very honestly, there may be a lot of other options that you could execute. Now, you just told me about a second mortgage, and you told me about other debt. And I don't want to get into your debt or your if you're in a fabulous financial position or not. I'm not insinuating one way or the other. Don't misunderstand. But if a person said to me, I'll do anything to stay in my house, but it's simply not affordable, the interest rate is completely ridiculous, I know I'm upside down, and I've got other issues with credit cards, I might say and look at your situation strategically and say, okay, listen, do you understand that we might be able to potentially strategically plan for a bankruptcy, discharge your second mortgage, discharge all of your other debt, your credit card debt, modify your first mortgage so your first mortgage would be even less than it currently is. You'd no longer have a second mortgage. You'd no longer have credit card debt, and now you'd be in a better position than you ever could imagine to keep your home and rebuild yourself financially. Correct?
Well, I haven't heard that kind of construct, but...
Tom, I'm going to let you go. We got to go to break here. But you see, a lot of complexity, a lot of options. You see what I'm saying, Tom? Yep. I'll let you go. We're going to go to break. And again, I'll encourage you to download the Financial Crisis Bible, get your questions answered. Go to the Kaplan website or go to our website, CYA21.com, and request classes. And I'll get you the list of classes, and you can go to those classes and get everything you ever dreamed of in great detail. Let's take our break.
Okay.
Welcome back. We are just about at the top of the hour. We're going to have to let you go here. Again, I want to simply say that the reason I did the show particularly today was to promote the classes that are offered at Kaplan Professional Schools. You can get that information by going to CYA21.com, and simply in the subject line, you can hit contact when you get to the website, CYA21.com, and simply put classes. And when you do, we'll send you a list of the classes that I'm describing and the times and locations that you can take those classes inexpensively, $50 for a half day, $100 for a full day, and gather the information that you probably have already gone to see a CPA or an attorney or a mortgage broker and a credit specialist and a real estate agent. My God, every time I walk away from one of these people, I'm more confused than when I started because everybody's contradicting one another. I'm well aware. That's why my business is to know what all of these people know and be able to put things together in a cohesive strategy. The classes that I teach at Kaplan are for that very purpose and essentially are, in essence, my business. Credit score investigation, to fall and rise again, buying within your budget, strategic default, and the path back. The very information people are looking for. That's what we offer. Kaplan Professional Schools is where I teach these courses, and I would welcome the general public to go. It doesn't matter if you need the continuing education. The information is what you're looking for, and it's in a very non-threatening environment. Be fabulous. Thank you so much for listening this week. I look forward to be back next week. Cover your assets when we cover all the topics related to your situations. Have a great week.
The proceeding was a paid program. The views expressed are not necessarily those of the management or ownership of 1500 ESPN.
Radio Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. Mets knuckleballer R.A. Dickey is Major League Baseball's first 12-game winner of the season. He's the first Mets starting pitcher to post 12 victories before the All-Star break since Bobby Jones in 1997. Dickey allowed 3 hits. He struck out 10 in 8 shutout innings as New York pounded on the